What is going on, everybody? BobbyFi with my man Eric Sheets Aber. We are going to be talking through the Monday night showdown slate. Not the most look, I love Lamar in general and stuff, but this is not the most fun first Monday night game I was hoping for. I guess that the Raiders have been getting that a lot lately. It should be a fun game, actually. It's just not my favorite, most exciting teams, I guess, that you usually expect out there. But Sheets, any overall thoughts before we jump on into it?
Yeah, these Lamar slates are always really interesting, because normally when you try to create game scripts and create lineups and stuff with quarterbacks, you're always saying, okay, who do I pair my quarterback with, right? And then you try to figure it out. But Lamar just does so much of the freaking offense on his own that it just creates a whole different way of looking at things. I will say though that one of my better showdown slates of all last year was with one of Lamar's games. That was the game, remember, where we had I think their big wide receiver was out or something, so we had our choice of all these $200 wide receivers or something, and I remember that I left millions and millions on the table or something like that, and ended up doing well. They priced everybody pretty efficiently for this one, but it's not your typical type of showdown slate, because you don't have to make a perfect lineup with Lamar. I mean, Lamar literally could do all the offense by himself, and you don't have to worry about what receivers you take. You could play lineups with Lamar and 4 Raiders, for example, and really just be in okay shape. And with that said, it's also a hell of a lot of fun to try to pick the right Baltimore guy. If God forbid, you get Hollywood Brown or somebody gets 2 touchdowns somehow, then it really puts you in great shape. But I'll look for example, I look at the prices, and I'll share my screen. I mean, I don't know how they come up with this, but I'll be more than happy to give someone 18 to 16 odds. Lamar outscores Darren Waller. You know what I mean? It's Lamar really should be twice the price of anybody in the slate. But he's going to be. I think whatever percent owned he's going to be is probably too low. I guess you could get some leverage in that way. Just basically lock him in and just play enough combinations elsewhere where you get a little different somewhere else. But I'm not fading him.
Yeah, I'm not fading him either, unless he's for some reason late COVID scratched because of the current. Yeah. That's the only way you're getting me not to play him. And I think that so I agree with you about. I mean, it's all true on every slate and all the stuff, and it's hard on big slates, especially to try and find someone to pair him with. Hollywood Brown has been good in these kind of games. I still don't trust the Raiders' defense entirely. And they have Sammy Watkins, who at least is a capable professional receiver, to go with him now. So I think that's a little bit interesting. And again, Sammy Watkins is projected to catch as many passes tonight. We talked about K props in the MLB show. We'll talk about catch props and receiving yard props. They're very, very close between he and Marquise Brown. And I think Marquise Brown will project significantly better. So I do more. I'm siding with the Raiders, but going through it, I'm not fading Lamar. I do think that you could make an argument for fading Carr, although I probably am not going to be doing that in my big ones either. Josh Jacobs, I'm assuming that he's good to go, which I think he will be. If he's not, it's Kenyon Drake. I do think you want to be looking at these guys. I think maybe playing Drake at a similar price tag to Jacobs is an interesting route to go. And I think playing Le'Veon Bell over Tyson Williams is a weird route that could help you on a showdown slate like this one. You also have Lat Murray in there who could take some away. Maybe Lat Murray, you could argue, is a better play than Le'Veon. It's hard to know what they're going to do with this offense right now. So, but Josh Jacobs, assuming he's good to go, is going to be hard to fade. But I don't mind playing him with these guys, or maybe hoping that Kenyon Drake gets a little bit more of the work. I'm just trying to think of different ways to get off the board. Have you thought much? I know it's weird to go position by position because we don't need positions, but I think
I do have a couple. Okay, yeah. I do have a couple, and again, this is showdown. But we should probably go over this every showdown slate, because you don't know who's just joining us at the first time.
Right.
So with showdown slates, I think it's important to lead. To try to strike that balance. I mean, you want to, on the one hand, you want to try to get a unique lineup, but you want to get a unique lineup that does not have that has a chance to win, right? So I can get you a unique lineup by replacing Lamar and Carr with the 2 backup quarterbacks, but that's a very, very slow chance, very low chance to win. but one way you can get different enough and use kind of like the good players is by leaving money on the table. And depending on the salaries out there, you're not going to be able to leave like 4,000 on the table and get anything passable this time, but you could certainly leave some amount on the table and do that. A couple of guys that I have, I mean, I do have one sub 1K guy that's just showing up for me, and he's showing up at literally 4 fantasy points. So it's not like it's whatever, but the way results distribute in the NFL among receivers, if you catch a ball in the end zone,
yeah,
and you're 200, you win. You know what I mean? Like, so I don't know how he's even going to get in the game or whatever. I don't even know who he is. But if somehow Josh Oliver, as like maybe a second tight end for Baltimore, gets in a goal line thing with Mark Andrews in the wrong direction and Josh Oliver catches a touchdown, that can win you $1 million. You know what I mean? So he's the one guy that I have that's totally just that's bizarre, that's projecting somewhat for me. The other guys that are actually showing up that less owned, maybe this is not going to be earth shattering either. I don't know why I think he's not going to be that high owned, but I have Hunter Renfrow as one of my highest owned players in my initial builds. I have him as like the ridiculously low projected ownership of 8%. There's no possible way people are going to play him. I mean, they have to. I mean, at 2,800. So he's the other guy that I have. So for me, Josh Oliver, Hunter Renfrow, based on these ownerships. And again, another guy who's just, and both kickers, I presume, are in play. And my ownership projections are just hopelessly low right now. I have them both at under 10%. I don't think that's humanly possible. So for me, I would look at the kickers. I would look for Josh Oliver and Hunter Renfrow. Those would be my pseudo off the board plays, I guess. I mean, you have anything?
Yeah, I guess I think it's important because everybody's in play, and they're actually, especially the Raiders side has more receiving options than for a team that's probably going to be having to throw the ball. So just real quickly about running back, I'll just breeze through these guys real quick. I will probably be below the field on Tyson Williams. I still will have Tyson Williams some. I will probably, because of the ownership, it's going to be harder for me to be fading Josh Jacobs, but I will probably be near the field on that one. Ahead of the field on Drake and Le'Veon Bell, below the field. Well, there won't be much of a field on Latavius Murray, but I'll be below whatever it is. And then I will have some Jalen Richard. That's the play I thought you were going to mention, start things with. He's the other 200 guy who actually gets enough work. And if the right game script comes up, you might see him catching the balls out of the backfield in the second half. If they're down, a couple scores or something like that. So I think there is some potential for him there. In terms of the receivers, I probably am going to be below the field on Marquise Brown because I think it's right to do on these slates. Now, it's always scary, but because he's the best option for Lamar. But I think that it's just right to be underweight on any popular Baltimore receivers in general. Bryan Edwards, I will be below the field on. I will be above the field on Henry Ruggs and Hunter Renfrow. I'll be way above the field on Sammy Watkins and Duvernay. And then I'm probably going to have a piece or two of David Moore. Look, Darren Waller is a phenomenal play here. I really think he's gonna, he'll end up being 1,000,000% owned. I will probably, just from a mathematics standpoint, try to be a little bit off of he and Andrews. And I like the Oliver idea, but I don't think that's gonna be totally earth shattering. But still,
okay,
we don't have everything. I think that there are going to be people who play him. In fact, he'll probably get 1% of people who captain him. But I will take that shot, especially because we've seen Lamar throw it back to his second tight end before a number of times. So I don't mind the idea of playing Josh Oliver. And then real quickly, I do like the Ravens defense as a potential option here. So the automatic plays for me are Lamar. Honestly, sadly, I really like Jacobs or Waller. I think you're going to have one of those guys. And then you get into the other ones. I probably will be significantly below the field on Derek Carr, but not even saying that's right. I'm just saying I personally would like to take shots on Sammy Watkins. I would like to take shots on, like I said, one of Jacobs or Waller. And then I prefer Ruggs over Renfrow. He'll be maybe a little more popular, I guess. But he's also more expensive, but that doesn't really matter. And then you have the Oliver Richard, and I will just for old time's sake and for the fact that I think that they maybe try and get him involved a little bit. I could see Le'Veon Bell having not a turnaround where he's going to lead the league in rushing kind of a season, but a turnaround year with the way they run things. We've seen these second and third string running backs for Baltimore have monster games before, and I have no reason to think that Le'Veon Bell couldn't get in there for a few plays. He plays well. He breaks one play, and then they leave him in there a little longer. They try and get him a little more involved, depending on the game flow and the situation. So I will take some Le'Veon Bell shots as well. So those are, I really want to emphasize the Richard thing from the coming back standpoint. I think that there's a really good argument for playing him for the Raiders. And I'm curious to see what you have an early ownership on him. What do you think Richard ends up owning tonight? Do you have any idea?
No.
I didn't know if you had anything early, because sometimes you got that stuff. And
I don't have anything yet.
I actually think that Justin Tucker is always a fantastic play, because they'll try and let him kick it from 60 yards and everywhere, and he tends to make everything. But I don't think the Raiders are going to stop this team that easily. It's the first game of the year. It's hard to know. I actually, just as a separate bet, I like Baltimore to win this game. And I think that they can do it. I think they're going to do it scoring touchdowns. But again, Justin Tucker is a great kicker, and 4K is like actually, I'm kind of surprised they didn't make him. Usually on these showdown sites, he's like 6K. Maybe we do have to try a little Tucker. So I've got my priority plays as Lamar, Watkins, Jacobs or Waller, Bell, Richard, Ruggs, and Tucker. That's my first look.
Yeah, let me see if I can see it early. No, I got to do an update on all these guys. I'll have something tighter as far as ownership goes a little bit later, probably.
Okay, and then
I don't really need Tyson Williams.
Yeah, it's fine
if that helps.
Yeah, and if you're, by the way, if you're going to play it's really hard not to captain Lamar because of how much of the offense goes through him, including especially his rushing, obviously. But if you weren't going to captain him, I do think the other guy you mentioned in Waller probably makes the most sense. I also think that you could make an argument for Hollywood Brown, even though I don't love him as much as a regular play. And then Josh Jacobs it's just hard for me. Like Josh Jacobs would have to, I really think Lamar scores like 24 to 30 almost all the time.
He might not even play though, Josh Jacobs.
I know. I'm saying if he plays. Well, that's the big question. Then that shifts everything around. And Richard not only becomes like a popular play, a really popular play. Along with, of course, the other Kenyon Drake. But if he does play and Kenyon Drake is unowned, maybe that's what you can do is play Kenyon Drake instead of Josh Jacobs. Hard to get different on these slates, but we can touch on this a little bit more. Well, I'll touch on it a little bit more at 6 Eastern. I'm sure everybody just wants to talk football these days anyway. But yeah, those are my priorities for this one. And taking shots on Oliver and Renfro, these guys all make sense. I want to focus on the lower ownerships, and I don't have my ownership projections yet. So yeah. I probably will have a better idea once I get some ownership projections.
I agree.
All right. Anything else, Sheets, before we get out of here?
Not for now.
Okay. All right. Good luck to everybody. We hope you crush it tonight, and hope to see you at the top of the leaderboards.